Welcome to my video on identifying parts of a box and whisker plot classwork. So what you had to do is look at the box and whisker plot and determine the median, upper and lower quartiles, upper and lower extremes, the range, and the interquartile range. And what I did first is I separated this into, well, it's already separated into 4 parts, but I took each of the 4 parts and put 25%. Because we talked about each part of the box is worth 25% of the data. Okay, so the median is where the box is cut. So right here is 8. The upper quartile was 9. So that's the end of the box. The lower quartile, the beginning of the box, was 2. The upper extreme, which is the end of the whisker here, is 10. And the lower extreme, which is the beginning of the whisker, is 1. So the range is the upper extreme minus the lower extreme. So 10 minus 1 is 9. In the interquartile range, I subtract the end of the box minus the beginning of the box, so 9 minus 2. That's the upper quartile minus the lower quartile, which is 7. The above box plot shows the possible points on a math quiz. What percentage of the students scored 8 to 10? So I had to look at this section here, and I noticed 25% and 25% is 50%. So that was half of the data right there. Okay, which means just these numbers were kind of more spread out here, whereas there's a bunch of numbers between 8 and 10 here. Okay, let's look at 3 and 4. The bottom here, once again, I wrote 25% for each part of the box. The median, where the box is cut, 1. Upper quartile is 4. Lower quartile is actually 0 here. The lower extreme is actually a negative number, negative 2 here. And then the range is going to be 5 minus negative 2. That's a little bit tricky, which is actually 7, okay? Not 3. Some of you might have put 3, but think about how many spaces you're going. It takes 5 to get to here and then 2 more, so it's actually 7. The interquartile range is subtract the end of the box minus the beginning, so that's 4 minus 0. Or you could say the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. And then for how many plays did the running backs gain between 1 and 4 yards? Okay, so right here. So this is 25% of the data, right? And we know that there's 24 different football plays, so I had to figure out what 25% of 24 is, which is 6 plays. One of the ways I could do that is change this to a decimal and multiply by 24. Or I could have set up a proportion. Remember, percent's out of 100. And if it's out of 24 plays, I want to know what 25% of that is. So x over 24. So you could have solved a proportion, or if you know what 25% of 24 is, you could have figured it out that way. Or 25% is 1/4, so you could have figured out 1/4 of 24. There's so many different ways you could look at that. And it says, for what percentage of plays did the running back lose yards, gain less than 0 yards? That's this part right here, which is 25%. And the back side, once again, I labeled the percentages, the median, where the box is cut. So I had to come up with the numbers here. So 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37. Looks like right about there. Okay. The upper quartile is 44, so 41, 42, 43, 44. That's how I got that. The lower quartile is 30. The upper extreme, well, this is 44, this is 45, 46. It's the upper extreme. The lower extreme is 0. And then the range is the upper extreme minus the lower extreme, so 46. The interquartile range is the upper quartile, which is 44, minus the lower quartile, which is 30. So that's how I got 14. And it says this box and whisker plot represents the number of sit-ups completed in 90 seconds by the PE students in 4th period. So the left whisker is much wider than the right. What would cause this to happen? Very few students completed less than 30 sit-ups, because this is 25% of the data. So that's saying that very few people did that. There are other answers. So if you didn't have that answer, check with me to see if it could be correct. There could be a couple different things you could say here. And what percentage of students can complete more than 30 sit-ups in 90 seconds? So I'm looking for this part is more than 30, which is 25 plus 25 plus 25 is 75. And let's look at the last section here. Once again, I counted each part as 25%. The median is 87, upper quartile is 90, lower quartile is 75 right here. Upper extreme is 94. Lower extreme is 70. The range, upper extreme minus lower extreme, is 24. The inner quartile range is upper quartile minus lower quartile, which is 15. And it says, for number 8, Mrs. Thomas' third period class took a quiz. How many students had an 87% on the quiz? Explain. Okay, once again, there's a couple different things you could have here. And I actually said it depends. If there's an odd number of students, then the median would have one number in the middle. So yes, if that was the case. Okay, but I don't know exactly how many students we are talking about here. So it's hard to say here. And then I said, however, if there were an even amount of numbers, it's possible that 87 might not be a score on the test. Because remember, if there's an even amount of numbers, there's going to be two numbers in the middle, and we take the average. So it could be 88 and 86 would give us an average of 87. It could be 89 and 85 in the middle, in which case 87 wouldn't be a score. So there's a couple different things you could say for that one. That one was a little bit tricky. And so check with me if you didn't have this response. And 8B, Mrs. Thomas states, no one had a perfect score on the quiz. Is she right? Justify your answer. Yes, the highest grade was a 94%. The upper extreme is 94, so no one had a perfect score because a perfect score would be 100. So nobody got more than a 94. That concludes our video on identifying parts of a box and whisker pod classwork. I hope you have a great day.